Admiral Crystal stood on the bridge of his flagship, watching the stars through the massive viewing screen. He had served the Zenthari Empire for 40 years. In that time, he had conquered 12 worlds and destroyed countless enemy fleets. Today was supposed to be another routine patrol near the Outer Rim territories. The Zenthari Empire controlled this region of space for 300 years. No one dared to challenge them. Any species that tried to resist was crushed without mercy. The Empire's military power was absolute. Their technology was superior. Warriors were trained from birth to fight and conquer. "Admiral, all sectors report normal activity," said Lieutenant Vexel from the sensor station. "No unusual readings detected." Crystal nodded. He commanded 20 warships today. They were patrolling near the Lyrian colonies, worlds the Empire had occupied 10 years ago. The Lyrians were a peaceful species. They had no weapons. They had no armies. They were perfect slaves for the Empire's mining operations. Suddenly, alarm sounds filled the bridge. Every screen turned red. Officers rushed to their stations. "Admiral, massive energy signature detected," Vexel shouted. His voice carried fear. "Something is materializing in Sector 7. Possible," Crystal said. "Our sensors would have detected any approaching ships hours ago." "Check your equipment, sir. The readings are correct. It's not approaching. It's appearing from nowhere." Crystal watched in shock as space itself seemed to tear open, a swirling vortex of blue and white energy appeared on the viewing screen. It grew larger and larger. Then something emerged from it, a warship. But not like any warship Crystal had ever seen. The vessel was massive, nearly as large as his flagship. Its hull was dark gray, covered in angular armor plates. Strange weapons covered every surface. Glowing blue lines ran across its hull like veins. The ship moved with smooth precision, taking position between the Zenthari fleet and the Lyrian colonies below. "Run full analysis," Crystal ordered. "I want to know what that ship is and where it came from." The bridge crew worked frantically. Moments later, Vexel looked up from his console. His face showed confusion and disbelief. "Sir, the ship's design matches no known civilization in our database. The energy signature is completely unknown. And Admiral, that vortex it came through was a stable wormhole. That technology shouldn't exist." Crystal felt a chill run through his body. Stable wormholes were impossible. The Empire's best scientists had tried for centuries to create them. Every attempt had failed, yet this unknown ship had just traveled through one as easily as opening a door. A communication signal came through. The bridge speakers crackled to life. A voice spoke in perfect Zenthari language. "This is the UES Defiant of the United Earth Systems. We come in response to distress calls from the Lyrian colonies. Stand down immediately and withdraw your forces." The bridge fell silent. Every officer stared at the viewing screen. United Earth Systems? Earth, that primitive planet the Empire had discovered decades ago? Crystal remembered the reports. 40 years ago, Empire scouts had found Earth during a survey mission. The planet was inhabited by humans, a species that had barely achieved basic spaceflight. They had crude rockets, had simple satellites. They fought wars among themselves over resources and territory. The Empire had placed surveillance. Satellites around Earth's solar system. They quarantined the entire region. Humans were too primitive to bother conquering. The plan was to wait another century until they developed more advanced technology and absorb them into the Empire as slaves. But this ship was no primitive vessel. This was advanced technology, technology that surpassed even the Empire's greatest achievements. His voice was steady, but his mind raced with questions. The viewing screen changed. A human appeared. She wore a dark blue uniform with gold markings on the shoulders. Her hair was black, tied back in a simple style. Her eyes were brown and calm. She looked directly at Crystal without fear.
"Dying."
"I am Admiral Crystal of the Zenthari Third Fleet. You are trespassing in Empire territory. Explain how you bypassed our quarantine and acquired this technology." The human smiled slightly. "I am Captain Sarah Chen of the UES Defiant. Your quarantine failed the moment you placed those satellites around our system. We studied them, learned from them, and we improved on everything we learned." Crystal felt anger rising in his chest. "Impossible. Your species was primitive, who had nothing but basic rockets and chemical weapons. "That was 40 years ago," Admiral Chen replied. "Humanity has changed. We united. We focused all our resources on advancing our technology. We knew you were watching. We knew you would return someday. So we prepared." "Your preparation means nothing," Crystal said. "You have one ship. I have 20. Surrender now, and we will show mercy." Captain Chen's expression remained calm. "Admiral, I'm giving you 1 hour to withdraw all Xanthari forces from Lyrian space. Leave peacefully, and no blood will be spilled today." Crystal laughed. The sound was harsh and mocking. "You dare threaten the Xanthari Empire? Your arrogance will cost you everything." 1 hour, Admiral Chen repeated.
"Aye."
"I hope you make the right choice." The communication ended. The viewing screen returned to showing the human warship, hung in space, silent and waiting. Around it, the Xanthari fleet began moving into attack positions. Crystal turned to his weapons officer. "Prepare all ships for combat. Surround that vessel and prepare to fire on my command." 20 Xanthari warships moved through space. They formed a sphere around the Defiant. Weapons powered up, shields activated. The trap was set. Crystal opened a final communication channel to the human ship. "Captain Chen, you had your chance. Surrender now or be destroyed." The response came quickly. Captain Chen's voice was no longer calm. It was cold as ice. "Your hour just became your last mistake, Admiral." The battle was about to begin. The Empire's worst fear in Earth warship materializes from nowhere. Part 2. Humanity's hidden strength. The first shot came from Admiral Crystal's flagship. A massive beam of concentrated plasma energy shot through space toward the Defiant. 19 other Xanthari warships fired at the same moment. 20 streams of deadly energy converged on the human vessel. The bridge crew of the flagship watched their screens, expected to see the human ship explode, expected debris and fire. Instead, something impossible happened. The Defiant's shields absorbed every hit. Blue energy rippled across an invisible barrier surrounding the ship. The plasma beams that should have melted through any known armor simply vanished against those shields. When the light faded, the Defiant remained completely undamaged. "Direct hits confirmed on target," the weapons officer reported. "But sir, their shields didn't even weaken. Our weapons had no effect at all." Crystal stared at the screen in disbelief. Fire again. All ships. Continuous barrage. The Xanthari fleet unleashed everything they had. Its plasma cannons fired without stopping. Missile launchers released hundreds of warheads. Energy weapons poured destructive force at the human ship. For 30 seconds, space itself seemed to burn with the intensity of the attack. The Defiant sat motionless in the center of the firestorm. Its shields glowed brighter, but never failed. Not a single weapon penetrated its defenses. Then the human ship returned fire. The Defiant's weapons were unlike anything the Xanthari had encountered. Railguns mounted along its hull fired solid projectiles at incredible speeds. The rounds moved so fast, they seemed to simply appear inside Xanthari shields, punching through armor like paper. Quantum torpedoes phased through energy barriers as if they didn't exist. They struck vital systems with perfect accuracy. Directed energy beams cut through Xanthari warships with surgical precision. Within 2 minutes, 3 Xanthari ships were disabled. Their engines were destroyed. Their weapon systems were offline. Their crews abandoned ship and escape pods. The human weapons targeted systems, not lives. They disabled rather than destroyed. Crystal watched in horror as his fleet fell apart. How is this possible? We are the Xanthari Empire, have conquered 100 worlds. On Earth, 40 years earlier, everything had changed in a single day. The discovery of alien surveillance satellites orbiting beyond Neptune had united humanity like nothing else in history. Every government on Earth had detected the satellites at the same moment. Every scientist confirmed they were not human technology. The revelation was terrifying. Hostile aliens existed. They were watching. They were waiting. Within a month, the United Nations created the Earth Defense Initiative. Within a year, every major nation had contributed their best scientists, engineers, and resources. Old enemies became allies. Wars ended. conflicts were set aside. Humanity had a new purpose: survival. The satellites themselves became humanity's greatest teachers. Scientists studied their technology day and night. Engineers reverse-engineered what they could observe. Mathematicians worked out the physics behind their power systems and propulsion. But humanity didn't just copy. They innovated. They improved. They pushed beyond what the aliens had achieved. Artificial intelligence advanced in 10 years what would have taken a century. Quantum computers solved problems that were previously impossible. Fusion power became efficient and clean. Manufacturing moved to orbital facilities where gravity didn't limit construction. The breakthrough came 15 years after the satellites were discovered. A team of physicists finally understood how to create stable wormholes. The theory had existed for decades, but the satellites provided the missing pieces. Within 5 years, humanity had built their first wormhole generator. The first test was successful. A probe traveled instantly from Earth to Mars, then to Jupiter, then to Alpha Centauri. The galaxy was suddenly within reach, but humanity remembered the satellites. They remembered they were being watched by something powerful and potentially hostile. So they built weapons. They built shields. They built warships designed for one purpose: protecting humanity from whatever threatened them. The Defiant was one of the first rapid response vessels. It was designed to travel through wormholes, reach any point in the galaxy quickly, and handle threats until reinforcements arrived. It was not even a true warship by Earth standards. The real military fleet was much more powerful. Back in the present battle, Captain Chen's voice came through on all Zenthari frequencies. "This is Captain Chen. I am offering you one more chance to withdraw peacefully. As I said, the Defiant is a rapid response vessel. It's designed for rescue and emergency operations. Earth's actual warships are far more advanced. You don't want to see what they can do." Admiral Crixtall's pride would not allow retreat. He had never fled from any battle. The Empire's honor demanded victory. He opened a secure channel to Zenthari High Command. "This is Admiral Crixtall requesting immediate reinforcements. We face an unknown threat with superior technology. Sending all tactical data now," High Command responded within minutes. "Reinforcements approved? Grand Admiral de Sexfer is en route with 60 warships." "Hold your position." Crixtall felt relief. 60 more ships. With his remaining 17 vessels, they would have overwhelming numbers. Even if the human shields were strong, they couldn't withstand the combined firepower of 77 Zenthari warships. "Captain Chen," Crixtall transmitted, "you defeated 3 of my ships. I acknowledge your strength. But reinforcements are coming. 60 more warships will arrive soon. Surrender now, and your crew will be spared." There was a pause. Then Captain Chen responded. Crixtall thought he heard amusement in her voice. "Admiral, I appreciate the warning. Allow me to return the courtesy." On the Defiance bridge, Captain Chen turned to her communications officer. "Send the signal." A new wormhole opened behind the Defiant. But this time, it was much larger. Energy swirled in a massive vortex, and through it came not one ship, but 5. 5 Earth warships emerged from the wormhole. Each one was larger than the Defiant. Each one carried weapons that made the Defiant's arsenal look small. They moved into formation with practiced precision. The lead ship transmitted its identity. "This is the UES Indomitable flagship of the Earth Defense Fleet. Admiral Marcus Webb commanding." "Act!" Crixtall stared at the screen. His hands gripped the armrests of his command chair. 7 Zenthari ships against 6 human vessels. The numbers no longer mattered. He finally understood the truth. Humanity was no longer the primitive species the Empire had dismissed decades ago. They had become something far more dangerous. They had become powerful. The Empire's worst fear in Earth warship materializes from nowhere. Part 3. The Tide Turns. Grand Admiral Dexfer arrived with his reinforcement fleet, feeling confident. 60 Zenthari warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. He was a veteran of 50 battles across 30 years of service. He had never lost a single engagement. His sensors immediately showed the situation. 17 damaged Xanthari ships were scattered across the battlefield. 6 human vessels held position near the Lyrian colonies. The humans were outnumbered more than 10 to 1 now. Dexvor opened a channel to all ships, both Xanthari and human. His voice carried the weight of absolute authority. Human vessels. This is Grand Admiral Vexfer of the Xanthari Imperial Fleet. You are surrounded and outmatched. Power down your weapons and prepare to be boarded. Resistance will result in your complete destruction. The response came from the largest human warship, the Indomitable. A man appeared on the screen. He wore the same blue uniform as Captain Chen, but with more gold markings. His hair was gray, his face weathered with age. His eyes were sharp and calculating. Grand Admiral, I am Admiral Marcus Webb of the United Earth Systems. Before we continue, I would like to demonstrate something. Captain Chen, if you would. A second wormhole opened behind the Earth fleet. Dexver expected more warships to emerge. Instead, what came through shocked everyone watching. 5 massive cargo ships appeared. They were enormous, easily 3 times the size of any warship present. They moved slowly into position around the Lyrian colonies below. Admiral Webb continued speaking. Those ships carry medical supplies, food, construction, materials, and engineers. They're here to help the Lyrian people rebuild what your empire destroyed. We've been monitoring this sector for years, Grand Admiral. We know about the slave colonies. We know about the resource extraction that leaves worlds barren. We know about the cultures you've erased. Dexver felt anger rising. You dare judge the empire? We bring order to chaos. We bring strength to the weak. We have built the greatest civilization this galaxy has ever known. You've built an empire on suffering, Webb replied calmly. But that's not why I'm showing you our cargo ships. I want you to understand something important. While you build warships, we build hospitals. While you create weapons, we create tools for building better lives. And yet our warships still outmatch yours completely. To prove his point, Admiral Webb gave an order. The Earth warships began a demonstration. They moved through space with impossible agility, making turns and maneuvers that should have been physically impossible. They deployed thousands of small drones that swarmed around them in complex patterns. The drones moved like a school of fish, flowing and shifting in response to simulated threats. Xanthari sensors couldn't track individual drones. There were too many, moving too fast, coordinating too perfectly. Our artificial intelligence allows coordination at speeds biological minds cannot match, Webb explained. Every ship in our fleet is connected. Every drone shares information instantly. We see the entire battlefield as one organism. Then the Earth ships demonstrated their weapons. They fired at disabled Xanthari vessels, targeting specific systems with perfect accuracy. Railgun rounds destroyed engine sections without damaging the crew compartments. Energy beams cut away weapon systems while leaving life support intact. Every shot was precise. Every hit was exactly where intended. Dexvor watched his tactical display update with growing horror. His computer analyzed the demonstration and provided probability calculations. If battle began, the Xanthari fleet would lose. Not just lose, but be completely overwhelmed within minutes. But Dexvor had one final card to play. He had used this tactic dozens of times before against other species. It never failed. Admiral Webb, your technology is impressive, but consider your position carefully. There are 3 million Lyrian civilians on the planets below. My ships have enough firepower to turn those worlds into ash. Stand down, or I will give the order to bombard the colonies. The channel went silent. The Dexver smiled. This was the moment when every other species had surrendered. They all valued life too much to risk civilians. They always backed down when innocent people were threatened. Captain Chen's voice broke the silence. She was no longer calm. Her words were ice cold. Grand Admiral, the Defiant has been monitoring every ship in your fleet since you arrived. Our tactical AI has calculated firing solutions for every vessel capable of orbital bombardment. If even one of your ships fires on those colonies, we will eliminate your entire fleet before the second shot is fired. Admiral Webb added his own warning. We've seen this tactic in your history files, thence. You've used it against the Coleri, against the Vaxen, against a dozen other species. It worked because they were afraid and unprepared. We are neither. Dexter felt sweat forming on his skin. His hand hovered over the bombardment command. One button press, and the humans would have to destroy his fleet. But if they were bluffing, if they hesitated even for a moment, he could force their surrender. Then Admiral Webb offered something unexpected. However, I don't want this to end in bloodshed. Grand Admiral, I'm offering you and your fleet safe passage to leave this system immediately. No pursuit. No further attacks. Take your damaged ships and go. Report back to your high command what you've seen here today. Bexfer was surprised. Why would you let us leave? You have us at your mercy, because mercy is the point, Webb replied. We didn't come here to destroy the Zenthari Empire. We came to protect the Lyrian people. We came to show you that there's another way. You can choose to keep fighting and lose everything. Or you can choose to leave peacefully and live to make a better choice tomorrow. Admiral Webb then broadcast on all frequencies, not just to the Zenthari, but to the Lyrian colonies below and to other ships monitoring the system from far away. To all Lyrian people, Earth offers its protection and assistance. We will help you rebuild your worlds. We will help you establish your own government. We will teach you to defend yourselves so you never have to fear invasion again. He turned his attention back to the X4. Grand Admiral, your empire has ruled through fear for 3 centuries. Today, you learned that fear has limits. There will always be someone stronger, someone who refuses to bow. Humanity is offering you a chance to learn a different way before it's too late. Dexfer looked at his tactical display. 77 Zenthari ships against 6 human vessels. The numbers meant nothing. His weapons were useless. His threats were empty. For the first time in his military career, he faced an enemy he could not defeat. But more than that, faced an enemy offering mercy he knew he did not deserve. His hand moved away from the bombardment controls. He took a deep breath and made his decision. The Empire's worst fear in Earth's warship materializes from nowhere. Part 4. The Empire responds. Grand Admiral Dexfer returned to the Zenthari homeworld in shame. His fleet of 77 warships had retreated without firing a shot. The news spread across the Empire within hours. For the first time in 300 years, Zenthari forces had been forced to withdraw. The High Council met in emergency session. War Marshal Daxarin, Supreme Commander of all Zenthari military forces, listened to the Zek's report with growing rage. He was the Empire's greatest warrior, a leader who had personally conquered 23 worlds. You retreated from 6 ships. Daxaron's voice echoed through the council chamber. You had 77 warships, and you fled like cowards. Vexfer stood firm despite his fear. War Marshal, I sent you all tactical data. Their technology is beyond anything we've encountered. Their weapons penetrated our shields as if they didn't exist. Their AI coordinated attacks faster than our crews could respond. Fighting them would have meant losing the entire fleet. Another council member spoke up. Perhaps we should negotiate. If these humans are so powerful, maybe we can reach an agreement. Negotiate. Daxarin turned on the speaker. The Zenthari Empire does not negotiate from weakness. We will show these humans what happens when someone challenges our dominance. He activated a star map showing the entire sector. I am taking personal command of the Imperial First Armada. 300 warships, 20 battle carriers, 5 dreadnoughts. We will crush the human fleet and burn their colonies to ash. Then we will find Earth itself and make an example of their homeworld. While the Zenthari prepared for war, news of their defeat reached every corner of the sector. The impact was enormous. On the Lyrian colonies, people gathered in the streets, celebrating their freedom. Earth cargo ships had landed, and human engineers were already helping rebuild destroyed infrastructure. Human doctors treated the injured. Human teachers began sharing knowledge. One young Lyrian named Sella watched human workers repair her village's water system. My grandmother told me stories of heroes from her youth, she said to her friend. Warriors who fought for others, who protected the weak. I thought such beings only existed in tales, but here they are. The Vaxxer, a peaceful species that had been nearly driven to extinction by Xanthari aggression, dared to hope for the first time in decades. Their remaining population lived on 3 small moons, hiding from Empire patrols. When they received recordings of the battle, their leader called an emergency assembly. "For 30 years we have lived in fear," Elder Vexrel said to the gathered Vaxxeri. "We watched our worlds burn. We saw our people enslaved. We thought we would die forgotten in the darkness. But perhaps the darkness is ending. Perhaps these humans will be our salvation." Even the Kelthans, longtime allies of the Xanthari Empire, began questioning their allegiance. They had supported the Empire because it seemed invincible. Now that invincibility was shattered. Kelthan merchants who traded with occupied worlds had seen the suffering. Some had felt guilty, but stayed silent. Now they spoke openly about change. Meanwhile, Admiral Webb established a defensive perimeter around the Lyrian system. Earth reinforcements arrived through wormholes, 20 more warships joining the original 6. Engineers deployed sensor satellites that would detect any approaching fleet hours in advance. Automated defense platforms were positioned around the colonies, Captain. Chen met with Admiral Webb on the Indomitable to discuss strategy. "Admiral, our intelligence suggests the Xanthari are sending everything they have," Chen said. 300 warships. We'll be outnumbered 15 to 1. Webb nodded. "I know. But remember, we're not just fighting for the Lyrians anymore. Every species in this sector is watching. If we defeat the Empire's best forces, it could end their reign of terror forever." Chen hesitated. "Sir, I have a different suggestion. What if we don't wait for them to attack? What if we go to them?" "Explain." "The Xanthari homeworld. What if we send a diplomatic mission directly there? Not to attack, but to talk. Show them we're not their enemies. Show them there's another path forward." Webb was quiet for a long moment. Many of his officers opposed any diplomacy with the Xanthari. They had seen recordings of Empire atrocities. Worlds burning. Species enslaved. Cultures erased. The Xanthari had shown no mercy to others. Why should humanity show mercy to them? But Webb remembered Earth's own history. Humans had committed terrible acts against each other. Wars that killed millions. Weapons that poisoned entire regions. If humanity could learn and change, perhaps the Xanthari could too. "It's risky," Webb finally said. "If they see it as weakness, they'll use it as an opportunity to strike." "Then we make our strength clear," Chen replied. "We send the diplomatic mission with a proper escort. 6 of our most advanced warships. We show them we come in peace, but we're ready for war if necessary." Webb made his decision. "All right, Captain. You'll lead the diplomatic mission. Choose your escort carefully. I'll remain here with the defensive fleet in case this is a trap." Across the sector, War Marshal Daxarin received an unexpected message. The humans were requesting safe passage to the Xanthari homeworld for diplomatic discussions. They wanted to talk. Daxaron studied the message carefully. Every other species the Empire had encountered tried negotiation eventually. It always failed. The Empire would pretend to discuss peace while positioning their forces for a decisive strike. The negotiations were just a distraction. Perhaps these humans were not so different after all. Perhaps their demonstration of power was just show. Perhaps they could be defeated like everyone else. Or perhaps they were genuinely different. Perhaps they truly wanted peace. But if that was true, it meant everything Daxarin believed about power and conquest was wrong. It meant the Empire's entire philosophy was flawed. He couldn't accept that. He refused to believe it. "Send a response," Daxarin ordered his communications officer. "Tell the humans we agree to meet in neutral space. Midway between the Lyrian system and our homeworld, they may bring 6 ships as requested." His tactical officer looked concerned. "War Marshal, what if this is a trap? What if they bring more ships than promised?" Daxarin smiled coldly. "Then we will have proof of their dishonesty, and I will have justification to destroy them completely. Either way, this meeting will end with the Empire's victory." Both fleets began moving toward the meeting point. Captain Chen and her diplomatic team prepared their arguments. War Marshal Daxerin prepared for battle. The fate of the entire sector would be decided in the coming days. The Empire's worst fear in Earth warship materializes from nowhere. Part 5. A new balance. The meeting took place in neutral space, far from any star system. 6 Earth warships faced off against War Marshal Daxerin's command fleet of 50 vessels. Both sides held position, weapons powered but not aimed, shields active but not at full strength. It was a delicate balance between preparation and peace. Captain Sarah Chen stood in the shuttle bay of the Defiant, preparing to board a small diplomatic transport. Admiral Webb stood beside her, along with 3 human diplomats and 2 xenobiologists who specialized in Xanthari culture. "Remember, Captain," Webb said quietly, "Daxerin is a warrior. He respects strength but understands it. Show him both sides of humanity, our power and our compassion." Chen nodded and boarded the shuttle. It detached from the Defiant and crossed the empty space between the 2 fleets. The Xanthari flagship, a massive dreadnought called Eternal Conquest, dwarfed the small human transport. The shuttle landed in a hangar bay. Xanthari guards escorted Chen and her team through corridors lined with weapons and armor. Everything about the ship spoke of military power. War was not just what the Xanthari did. It was who they were. War Marshal Daxerin waited in a conference chamber. He was tall, over 2 meters, with scaled skin that gleamed under the lights. His eyes were golden and sharp. Scars crossed his face and arms, marks of countless battles. He studied the humans as they entered. "Captain Chen," his voice was deep and commanding. "You requested this meeting. Speak." Chen stepped forward calmly. "War Marshal, thank you for agreeing to meet. I want to show you something." She activated a holographic projector. Images filled the air between them. Recordings of Xanthari conquests. Worlds burning. Cities destroyed. Civilians fleeing in terror. Species enslaved. Daxerin watched without emotion. "You show me the Empire's victories. What is your point?" "These are not victories," Chen replied. "These are crimes. You have caused suffering across dozens of worlds. Millions of lives destroyed. Strong survive. The weak perish. This is the natural order." Chen changed the hologram. Now, it showed Earth's history. Ancient wars. Medieval battles. World wars with millions dead. Nuclear explosions. Cities destroyed by human weapons. "This is humanity's history," Chen said. "We fought each other for thousands of years. We committed atrocities that match anything your empire has done. We built weapons capable of destroying our entire world. We nearly killed ourselves." Daxerin leaned forward, interested despite himself. "Then how do you stand here judging us?" "You are no different," we learned, Chen said simply. "We looked at the destruction we caused and made a choice. We chose to change. We chose to build instead of destroy. To cooperate instead of conquer. To show mercy instead of cruelty. That choice saved our species." She changed the hologram again. Now, it showed Earth as it was today. Cities of gleaming towers. Orbital stations. Wormhole gates. But also parks and gardens. Schools and hospitals. People of different cultures working together. We learned that true strength is not the ability to destroy, Chen continued. True strength is the wisdom to build. The courage to show restraint. The vision to see potential allies instead of enemies. Daxerin stood and walked around the table. "Beautiful words, Captain. But words change nothing. The Empire is strong because we take what we need. We expand without mercy. That is how we survived for 3,000 years. And where has that led you?" Chen asked. "You are surrounded by enemies. Every species you conquered waits for a chance to rebel. Your own allies, like the Kelthans, question their loyalty. You have created a galaxy that hates you. Is that strength? Or is it the beginning of your end?" The War Marshal had no answer. Admiral Webb's voice came through Chen's communicator. "Captain, we're receiving multiple distress signals from across the sector. Xanthari colony worlds are reporting rebellions. News of the Empire's defeat has spread. Subject species are rising up. Daxeron's own officers reported the same information. Colonies in open revolt. Supply lines under attack. Allied species refusing orders. The Empire was fracturing. Chen seized the moment. War Marshal, I offer you a choice. You can continue fighting. Send your 300 ships against our fleet. Maybe you will win. Maybe you will lose. Either way, more Xanthari will die. And while you fight us, your empire will collapse from within. What is the alternative? Daxeron asked, though his voice suggested he already knew. Peace, cooperation, join humanity in building something better. Not an empire based on fear, but a coalition based on mutual benefit. And if I refuse, if I choose to fight? Admiral Webb's voice came through again, this time on open channels that all Xanthari officers could hear. Then you will face not just humanity, but every species you have oppressed. We have been in contact with the Vaxxer, the Lyrians, the Talani, and 24 other civilizations. They are ready to fight for their freedom. With Earth technology and their knowledge of your systems, the Empire will fall. To demonstrate sincerity, Admiral Webb did something that shocked everyone. He transmitted detailed specifications of Earth's shield technology to the Xanthari flagship. Not weapons, not engines, but defensive systems that could protect Xanthari worlds from attack. We give you this freely, Webb said, to show we mean peace, but also to show that we understand your technology completely. If we can give you shields, we can overcome them. If you choose war, you will lose. Several younger Xanthari officers exchanged glances. Admiral Crixtal, who had survived the first battle and been reassigned to Daxeron's fleet, spoke up. War Marshal, I fought these humans. I saw what their weapons can do. But I also saw what they chose not to do. They disabled our ships instead of destroying them. They saved our crews when they could have let us die. They showed mercy when victory gave them the right to show none. Other officers began speaking quietly among themselves. The seed of doubt had been planted. If the Empire's own warriors were questioning their path, change was already beginning. Daxeron looked at the hologram, still showing Earth cities. You ask me to abandon everything the Empire has built. Everything we believe, Chen said. I ask you to evolve, to become something better. Humanity didn't abandon our strength when we chose peace. We redirected it. We used our power to protect instead of conquer, to build instead of destroy. The Xanthari could do the same. War Marshal Daxeron stood silent for a long time. 3,000 years of tradition weighed on his shoulders. 3,000 years of conquest and dominance. But he also saw the reports coming in. Rebellions spreading. The Empire fracturing. And before him stood an enemy offering peace instead of punishment. I must consult with the High Council, he finally said. Such decisions cannot be made by one warrior alone. 3 weeks later, representatives from Earth, the Xanthari Empire, and delegates from 30 liberated species gathered on neutral ground. The negotiations were difficult. Many species demanded justice for past crimes. Many Xanthari officers resisted change. But slowly, painfully, agreement was reached. The Xanthari Empire would withdraw from all occupied territories over a period of 5 years. They would pay reparations where possible. War criminals would face trials. In exchange, Earth would share defensive technology and help former Empire worlds transition to self-governance. Not all Xanthari accepted these terms. Some colonies refused to comply. Some fleets rebelled. But the majority, tired of endless war and seeing no path to victory, agreed to try a different way. Captain Chen stood on the observation deck of the Defiant, watching as the first joint patrol formed. Xanthari and human ships flying together, protecting trade routes that were once battle zones. Young officers from both species training together, learning from each other. Admiral Webb joined her. You know this peace is fragile. It could break at any moment. I know, Chen replied. But every great change starts with a fragile moment. Earth's peace wasn't built in a day. It took generations. This will too. Below them, on what was once a Xanthari military base, children from a dozen species played together. Xanthar youth, who had been raised for war, learned to play games instead. Human engineers worked alongside Xanthari builders, repairing worlds damaged by conquest. The galaxy's balance of power had shifted, not through conquest or destruction, but through humanity demonstrating a simple truth. Compassion and strength were not opposites. They were two sides of the same coin, and that coin could buy a future worth living in. The Empire's worst fear had not been Earth's warships appearing from nowhere. Their worst fear had been facing an enemy that refused to become like them. An enemy that offered mercy instead of revenge. An enemy that showed them what they could become if they chose to change. And some of them were brave enough to choose that change.